now I have another very exciting talk from Paul Brody from EY, and we're going to be talking about Ethereum for business. So, I'd like a huge round of applause, please. Woo!
I knew it was not going to end well the minute he got everybody up on stage. They didn't go back to sit down. So for those of you who never got up on stage, you're my people. I'm Paul Brody. I'm the global blockchain leader at EY, which is a wonderful Web 2 title in a Web 3 world. For those of you who don't know, EY, Ernst Young, one of the big global professional services firms. Somebody's got to give me one of those clicker thingies that, yes, that's what we're looking for. Thank you. So this title is called Ethereum for Business because I wrote a book. I did write a book, really, even though the clicker doesn't work. There we go. I wrote a book, and I wrote a book for a very simple reason, which is I kind of got tired of people saying, oh, you know, blockchain is just like this solution looking for a bunch of problems to solve. In fact, there are a ton of problems worth solving, and I got into this business. I kind of caught the bug of blockchain as I was trying to solve real business problems for real business clients. In my case, actually, I first got into this because I was working with Samsung. They were my client when I was a vice president at IBM. And they said, we need to help figure out how to use, how to make our smartphones and our smart device networks much more efficient. And I was like, well, one of the things that's really bizarre about kind of the world of modern computing is all these smart devices that we carry around with us, they still need huge amounts of server infrastructure. It's really bizarre. Like, why do we need all this stuff? Can't your refrigerator back up your washing machine? Right? So we got involved in distributed computing, and we started looking at Bitcoin. And one of my colleagues came to me and said, I've met this guy. He is a little strange, but he has a cool idea about making Bitcoin, but like for computing. And I was like, that is a ticket. I want that. And so we started working with Vitalik, and once I got sort of down this whole Ethereum road, it was the end of my regular business career. And at a certain point, IBM said to me, Paul, you cannot stay here and work on blockchain. And I think they imagined that I would stop working on blockchain, but that is not what happened. I, in fact, left and I went to Ernst Young, where I have been, I guess, coming on almost 10 years now, working on Ethereum, working on blockchain. So I wrote a book. So this is like, the book is like the long form version of this discussion, which is, what are all the really cool things that we can do with blockchain that are business oriented? Because in fact, you know, we get really sidetracked. I don't know what the magic thing is. We get really sidetracked and focused on finance, but there are mountains and mountains of great business applications for this technology. Inventory management, public sector accountability, contract management, emissions tracking, right? Sort of product slavery tracking, product traceability, all the kinds of things that you want to do in business that involve working with multiple firms, you can do on blockchain. Not only can you do them on blockchain, but you can do them better on blockchain than you can in the real world. All right, now, in the world of like social activity, you hear people talking community building and other things about censorship resistance. In the business world, blockchains have a special value proposition. Ethereum has a particular value proposition, which I think of as monopoly resistance. We live in the golden age of digital centralized monopolies, right? And if we don't want that to continue forever, enterprises need to start doing more business on public blockchains. And now, I didn't write a book called, you know, Blockchains for Business. I wrote Ethereum for Business because I think when it comes to actually doing business transactions, Ethereum is the only blockchain that's really worth investing in and taking your time on. And so I myself can credibly be described as an ETH maxi. Ernst Young, EY, we are, for all intents and purposes, ETH maxis as well. I have bet EY's future in the blockchain business on Ethereum. And that has been true for a decade now. The last panel were great. They were talking about FUD. I have faced FUD from every conceivable direction, most notably IBM, my former employer, who's great at terrifying customers into thinking that if it's on a public blockchain, it must be bad, right? And that's just not true. That's absolutely not true, but FUD is a big part of the corporate sales world, unfortunately. So, what is it that we can really do with blockchain technology? The simple answer is, business today is mostly a bunch of silos, right? Everything that you get, everything you buy, all the services, right? They're all actually built on top of a bunch of other things, right? This is a really good illustration of a physical supply chain, but software, media and entertainment, they all have kind of equivalent supply chains. And they all have delightful little silos, right? You know, and this is true even, for example, with the book I wrote. The book I wrote was published 6 months ago. I've received 1 sales report and 0 royalty checks. It's been 6 months, right? The world of book publishing is the most astounding collection of manual processes you can possibly imagine. It's like this in the world of supply chains, right? Everybody's digital. We have long since passed the point where people are like, oh, I do this all on paper. Everything is digital, but the silos between organizations are all kind of analog, right? So inside your company, you might be completely digital, and then your supplier's like, yeah, but you need to fax me the order, right? And it's kind of hard to believe, but I still have clients in Singapore that are faxing orders to their suppliers. And if they're not faxing them, they're sending them by EDI or they're emailing a spreadsheet. But in all these ways, it is an incredibly clumsy business operation, which can be hugely improved by basically digitizing it. Now, to connect up all the world's enterprises, we just need a simple model of how to do business electronically. And it turns out it is incredibly straightforward. Every single business deal is this. I have money, or something that looks like money. You have stuff, product or service, and I would like to exchange my money for your stuff under the terms of an agreement. Turns out you can do that perfectly on a blockchain, right? You can tokenize your money, you can tokenize your stuff, and you can write the rules of your business agreement as a smart contract. We have, in the world of crypto and blockchain, everything we need to run every single business-to-business process on Earth. And it is perfectly reasonable for you to be wondering, after 10 years, what is taking so long? Like, why is this such an incredibly simple process not being widely adopted by enterprises? And the answer actually is pretty straightforward, right? We can enable every business-to-business process on Ethereum, but we have a little problem, right? I'll come back to this. So what's taking so long, right? And the answer is actually pretty straightforward. There's some that we've already solved. So early on in the world of blockchain, enterprises were like, this is great. I can like notarize my documents, right? Notarizing your documents is not the same as digitizing them. I don't want to buy the document. I want to buy the product. People like, oh, do I have to transact in crypto? No, businesses want to transact in fiat currency. Right? I don't think you can buy your Lambo with crypto. I think you actually have to have fiat currency. I know that Ferrari and Lamborghini, they pay all their employees in euros, right? You have to operate in a regulated environment, so you can't be separate from the world of regulation. And lastly, you can't reside on a siloed private blockchain. This is a huge problem. Private blockchains they don't scale. It's not that they technically can't scale, it's that they don't scale from a partnership standpoint. We commissioned a survey at EY. We had a big consulting firm that's not us go around and ask about 150 companies, hey, are you on a blockchain? And of the companies that said yes, for every 1 company that was willing to join somebody else's blockchain, 2 companies started their own. That means that the average privately run blockchain has 1.5 users. That's not a network. That's an experiment, right? It doesn't scale, right? Ethereum's got 10,000 nodes. It's got 40 layer 2s. It's got millions of users. That's scaling. But the one that has kept enterprises from joining the world of public blockchains is very simple. They don't have real privacy. So in the world of public blockchains, we've been happy with anonymity or pseudonymity, right? A number instead of a name. But that's not good enough if you're an enterprise. And the reason it's not good enough if you're an enterprise is just like the internet, it is way too easy for me to figure out who you are and what you're doing if you don't have privacy. You need privacy or really confidentiality for the stuff that you make, the stuff that you move, the terms of your business agreement, right? If your smart contract says, I'm going to buy 1 million widgets for $5 each, you've already disclosed the most important information, which is what are you buying and how much are you paying, right? You've given your competition some of the most sensitive business information that you possess, right? So we need privacy. Privacy for the enterprise is the biggest obstacle. And by the way, you probably have noticed there really isn't or aren't almost any good privacy solutions out there for enterprises. Enterprises, by the way, cannot use mixers, right? If every single thing that goes into this device is really basically a non-fungible token. It's got if it's of any value, it has a serial number, it has a manufacturing history, it's an NFT. You can't put NFTs in mixers. And you can't run a smart contract through a mixer. You need more substantial privacy. And so for the last 8 years at EY, our number one priority has been to build enterprise privacy. And so that's what we're doing. And it's a very slow process. And it's perfectly normal for people to think, this is going to take a while. For example, if we go back to the era of e-commerce, right, there were a whole bunch of obstacles that you had to negotiate in order to get your business to scale, right? First of all, most companies didn't know how to make websites. It wasn't easy. Encryption. Web browser encryption was not widely available until almost the year 2000. Supply chains. Believe it or not, in like the late 1990s, you could order stuff electronically, but it was easier to order an entire pallet of toilet paper than one roll, right? Because electronic ordering systems existed for B2B purposes. It was for supermarkets to restock the shelves, not for individuals to have stuff sent to them. And broadband, most people didn't have broadband. We're going through the same process now in the world of Web3, right? Where companies are just figuring out that they need to tokenize the product, not notarize the document. They need privacy, right? Confidentiality. They need security, right? By the way, a lot of stuff that claims to be audited is not, right? And what people call a security audit is not really a security audit. And of course, most people still don't have digital wallets. I have an uncle, he texts me like 3 times a week. He's like, I can't figure out how, I bought some ETH and I can't figure out how to monetize it, right? I can't figure out how to sell it. I'm like, come on, man, you're not 90. You can figure this out. But negotiating all these obstacles is a slow process. And a really good benchmark here is the time it took to scale up the e-commerce business, right? It took really 20 years to grow the e-commerce business. It's still growing. When a business takes hold, it doesn't just go overnight into overdrive. We don't just suddenly start buying everything online. It takes time to negotiate this. And over again, what you see, e-commerce, smartphone adoption, network equipment deployment. When a business really takes off, it doesn't grow dramatically overnight, like 100%, 200%. It grows 20 to 30% a year, every year for 20 years. That is, when you think about the growth that we are headed for in the world of Ethereum, that is a realistic thing. You shouldn't be thinking about 1 or 2 years ahead. You should be thinking about 2 decades of steady growth. Because that's what it looks like. Aside from this, here we have this one little dip right here. That was the global financial crisis. Was like the only year in the history of e-commerce that we had a dip, right? We will see the same thing. Now that I think of blockchain and Web3 as a relatively more normal business, it's regulated thanks to MiCA in Europe, we can look forward to, I believe, 20 years of steady growth. Privacy is the obstacle that still needs to be really, really well kind of tackled. There's 2 kinds of privacy. There's the privacy of moving stuff and tokens, and there's a privacy that's involved in making the digital smart contracts work. And this is where EY is making our biggest contribution. We've developed 2 kind of key technologies. The first is an Ethereum L2 called Nightfall. Nightfall is a zero-knowledge-based roll-up where the zero knowledge is for privacy. Nightfall 1 we showed at Prague. We showed the prototype in Prague in 2018. At that time, it cost us about $100 to do a single private transaction. Today, Nightfall 3 can do transactions on Ethereum, fully private, zero-knowledge transactions on Ethereum for about 5 US cents. We will show the prototype of Nightfall 4 in 2 weeks' time. Nightfall 3, ZK optimistic rollup. Nightfall 4 will be a ZK rollup with 1 zero knowledge for privacy and 1 for instant finality, right? And we will be able to do, as an L2, very cheap transactions, roughly the same price, and as an L3, millions and millions and millions of extremely low-cost private transactions. So that covers the moving of stuff, money for stuff. You can move those around. The other thing you need is private business logic, and for that, we created Starlight. And what Starlight is it's a compiler that lets you take a traditional Solidity smart contract and recompile it as a zero-knowledge circuit. So you don't have to be a mathematician or a zero-knowledge expert to figure out how to build a privacy-enabled application, right? And both of these, both Nightfall and Starlight, are donations by EY into the public domain. We have relinquished all legal rights to this. This represents about $50 million of engineering research that has been deployed into the Ethereum community free of charge. Thank you. Now, you might be wondering, is this actually worth anything? Like, can you do anything with it? So the truth is, I don't really know at scale on the public network because we don't have a lot of public users of Nightfall. And Nightfall 3 is available. It's live on the Polygon Proof of Stake network as an L3, but it's not gone live yet on Ethereum. We probably will just skip it and we'll go straight to Nightfall 4 on Ethereum. But we do have actually one really good data point from the work that we did with Microsoft several years ago. We built, and it's still running, the smart contract system for the Microsoft Xbox video game network. What we did was we took all the video game contracts that Microsoft has with their suppliers, so buying video games, and they all have slightly different terms and conditions, and we turned them into smart contracts. And all that business runs through this smart contract system inside of Microsoft. So that's a lot. That's billions of dollars of revenue a year running through this private blockchain system. But even though it's a private blockchain system, and even though I'm not the biggest fan of private blockchains, it did give us a really good sense of how this would look and work with Starlight deployed on a public blockchain. And the answer is pretty good. We cut the cycle time that Microsoft needs to calculate royalties they owe to suppliers by 99%. Any consultants here? 99% is considered a good improvement when you do a project. There's not a lot left to improve. We cut the total cost by 40%, and this was the very first client we ever had doing this, right? And we hugely improved the customer satisfaction because enterprises working with Microsoft could immediately see how their promotions and sales were going. So we have some good data points that tell us that if we move business processes to a public blockchain with privacy, we will probably experience very, very positive results. What does EY do in this space? Well, we do a bunch of things. Mostly what we do is we try to make for enterprises this process very simple. Most enterprises are not going to build a blockchain team. They're not going to go hire a bunch of PhDs in math. So what we have done is we've taken our core products and services, right, minting, burning, transferring tokens, tracking carbon emissions, tracking product shipments, purchase orders, and basically turn them into APIs that you can plug directly into your ERP system. So before I wrap up and let you go eat lunch, 3 closing messages. Number 1, please, if you are a business that uses Ethereum, works on Ethereum, please join the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance. Last week, I was made the chairman of the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance, so I'm super excited about that. There are firms like EY, Microsoft, JP Morgan Chase, Block Apps, big companies, little companies, and the membership fees are scaled based on the size of your firm. So small startups starts at about $3,000 a year, and we have events, we work on standards, we work closely with the Ethereum Foundation, we have education programs. It is a great organization, and it's really honored to be named the chairman. Secondly, if you want to know more about kind of how we see the future coming, we are having a global blockchain summit in 2 weeks' time in London. It will be available entirely free of charge online. And our topic this year is really going to be all about this regulated financial future we're going to have. I haven't talked about finance in this presentation, but if you want to know about the future of finance in the world's regulated markets, this is the event. We will have speakers from Coinbase and the Lord Mayor of the City of London and a few other people kind of talking about the future of regulation and finance. And we will also have a big set of presentations from our engineering team on how privacy technology actually works. And finally, if you would like an NFT from me, I would like to make one available to you. All you have to do is scan this, and the EY blockchain infrastructure will make and send to you what we jokingly call proof of Paul. I'm a huge fan of what my friend has done with proof of attendance protocol, and so I have those as well. But I figure if you get your company to spend a couple $100 million on blockchain infrastructure, you should be able to give out NFTs. So that's what we're doing. And I think that is it for my presentation. Thank you all for joining and staying.